with that great church of Higher Ground Temple in Camden, New Jersey. Just wanted to come to you this morning just with a quick word of encouragement for some folks that may be going through some things right now, that may be having some struggles, because I just want to encourage you because, sometimes it can be real easy to see the blessings that we have in our life in the beautiful things. It's easy to see the blessing in that sunshiny, bright day when you're outdoors playing, having fun. It's easy to see the blessings when your children are healthy, when your children are doing well, when your children are being cooperative, and you see them heading down the right path. It can be real easy to see Jesus in everything when you've got some money in the bank. It can be real easy to see Jesus in these beautiful things. It can be harder, however, to see Jesus in the unpleasant things. It can be harder to see Jesus when it's a rainy day out, but yet you wanted to go out and have a picnic. You wanted to take the kids to the park. You wanted to get out, but it's the rain that keeps you in. It can be harder to see that Jesus in the children when they're struggling. It'd be harder to see Jesus in the children when they're fighting against you, when they're pushing back, when they're not listening, when they're not doing what they're told. It can be easier, it can be real difficult to see Jesus when the bank account's empty and yet you still have bills to pay. But I just want to encourage you because the Word does promise us, the Word does tell us that Jesus is in everything. If we look at the book of John, chapter 1, the very beginning of the book of John, verses 1 through 3 tell us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things, I want to emphasize, all things were made by Him, and without Him nothing was made that was made. So notice what it says there. It says all things were made through Jesus. That Jesus is the creator, the author, the finisher, the Word that did bring about all things. It doesn't say it was just the good things. It doesn't say it was just the beautiful days. It doesn't say it was just the sunshine. It doesn't say it was just the cute little doggy curled up at your feet that He made. But He was there, and nothing that was made without Him. So I just want to encourage you and let you know. That even if you're going through some things right now, that Jesus still is in the midst of it, and Jesus will work it out for your good, as long as you stick with Him, as long as you stand by Him. Because you see, the thing is, when you look at that rainy day, out of the rainy day comes the flowers. Out of the rainy day comes the rainbow. So while you're going through it, it doesn't look so good, but you come back a couple days later, you see the flowers coming up, and all of a sudden that rainy day doesn't look so bad. You look at the struggling child, the child that's pushing back, the child that's fighting back against you, and you think about, when you stick with them, when you continue to show them that you love them, when you continue to teach them, when you continue to tell them about Jesus, and you see them come out the other side, the closer relationship that you have with them, that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when your child goes through and you see them come out and they come to you one day and they say, you know what, I see why you did that. I see why things were the way they were back then. So even though that time doesn't feel good with a struggling child, that there is a blessing on the other side. You look at that low bank account that we said it's real hard to see Jesus when there's no money in the bank and yet there's bills to pay. But when you don't try and work it out yourself, when you don't go and seek deceitful gain, dishonest gain, and you actually let God bring you through it, the relationship and the dependence and the way that strengthens your dependence on and your faith in God is a beautiful thing. So just, keep in mind, as you're going through these difficult times, as you're going through trials, that these things are here to strengthen you, to build you up, that just like the rain, just like that rainy day, there is beauty just on the other side of it. And honestly, without the rain, think about it, what would life be? It would be barren, it would be desolate. So think about that when you're going through your own rainy days in your spiritual life, in your financial life, in your relationship life, that after the rain does come life. It is rain that brings the life to us. But if you're not, and when you'll actually get there, when you actually can start seeing Jesus in in the dark times, when you can start seeing Jesus in the struggles and in the trials, that's when you have what Jesus spoke about when he says, the peace that surpasses all understanding. Because there's no reason why when you're going through it, when you look at the circumstances, why you should be calm, why you should be at peace, why you should even be joyful in those times. But that's what Jesus is talking about. When he talks about having that peace that surpasses all understanding, it's knowing that he's not just there in the good times, that he's there in the bad times, that he's there in the struggles. But I'll tell you this, I want to encourage you in this too, because sometimes I think we can beat ourselves up a little bit when we do have that crisis of faith, when we do have that worry, even though the world tells us not to worry, we can kind of beat ourselves up a little bit. But I want to encourage you in this, not to beat yourself up, because when we look at verses 4 and 5 of John, it says, "In him was the light of men, and the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." You see, as long as there have been men, as long as there have been women, there have been men and women who did not see the blessing that they had in Jesus, the blessing that they had in their relationship with God. There have been people around since the beginning of time that when they went through their struggles, they turned to themselves instead of to God at times. But I just want to encourage you in this, because I can tell you from my own testimony, I've got such blessings in my life right now. I think about my church, I think about my family, I think about my wife, I think about my children, and the blessing that they are all to me. And when I walk myself back, when I start at where I'm at now, and I start walking back the path that brought me here, those greatest blessings that I have came out of dark times. The greatest blessings that I have really grew out of a storm. I think about, just to use my wife as an illustration, had it not been for those bad relationships I had, I may not have the same appreciation that I have for her now. Had it not been for those mistakes that I made in past relationships, I might be making those mistakes now with the one that God actually sent to me. So I just want to encourage you and to stand on God's promises, because he does promise us in Romans 8:28. He says, "God will work all things to good for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." And Romans 5:35 says, "Not only do we rejoice in our suffering, but we rejoice in our suffering, because our suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. And our hope does not disappoint us." It never disappoints us, because God has poured out his love into our hearts through the Holy Spirit. So if you're going through a rough time this morning, if you're going through a rough stretch in your life, be encouraged. You are going to come out the other side, and you are going to come out the other side stronger than you went in. And just keep in mind as well, that if you're not going through a tough time right now, if you're not going through a struggle right now, that you will be going through one probably in the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. Sometime it's going to hit. And I just hope that you'll remember this message, remember these words, that God will bring you through. He will bring you through every time. And he's not here just to help you to survive it, but he's here to help you thrive in it. He's here to help those flowers grow through the rain. He's here to help bring the children back in line, to bring the children back. He's here to help out with your finances. He's here to help out with your marriage. He's here to help out with all these things. But the only thing that you really have to do to make it through is to stick with Jesus. When you hit the hard time, when you hit the health problem, when you hit all these different things, don't turn away from them. Don't run away from them, but turn to them all the more. One of the biggest problems I've seen with those of us who love Jesus is sometimes when we go through that tough time, we go, "I'm too tired to make it to church. I'm too sick to make it to church. I got to get myself together before I make it to church." No, what you do is you stick with God, stick with Jesus, stay with him, and he will bring you through. As it said in Romans 8:28, God works out all things to good for those who love him and have been called according to his purpose. So you just keep on loving God, keep on sticking with God, keep on depending with God, and you are going to come out the other side stronger than you went in. I pray your strength in the Lord. I pray your joy in the Lord, and I pray to see you more and more. In Jesus' name, have a great day and a blessed one.